Nimenha, and welcome back to another episode of Ignite Your Power, the Kathy Mou Podcast, which is all about living the BS life, aka living the bliss soft life, where I teach you about empowering yourself so you can be authentically you and living with purpose, happiness, joy, and peace. And so today I am joined by an incredible person, Amy Kemp. She's an owner and CEO of Amy Kemp Inc. and a certified habit finder coach who has helped over 300 female business leaders transform the thought habits that shape every area of their lives. Amy's work is all about uncovering the internal patterns and hidden beliefs that influence how we lead, how we show up, and how we move through the world. Through her signature program, Encounter, she guides women through a powerful 4-month journey of replacing unhealthy thought habits with deeply aligned healthy ones, which she has done one for me, which is really cool that, you take a survey and whatnot, but I'll have her give the links later. If you're ready to understand why your mind works the way it does and how shifting your thought habits can completely change your leadership, your business, and your life, you're going to love this conversation. So let's dive in and say hi to Amy.
So glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you. And I love how you have this habit finder test that you can seriously see why you function or how you're functioning on a daily basis. And then showing you the blind spots. It's pretty cool. So how did you even come up with this habit finder and coaching this way?
Sure. So I originally encountered the habit finder assessment and the curriculum as a client. I was leading a very large sales team across the country and kind of had reached a plateau where I wasn't able to kind of get past a certain threshold. And I worked with a business coach at that time who used the habit finder. And our work together continues to be, because I would say I'm still on the journey, the most transformational personal and professional development work I did. And so for years, that coach worked with people in my organization when I felt like it could benefit them when they got to a certain place, never thinking I would be a coach. That wasn't my aspiration. I didn't think I would be. That was not, in fact, at certain points in my career, I would have said that I just didn't even want to coach people because it was emotionally exhausting to me to do it. And so, really interesting. So I was just doing life, business growing, kids in the Uber era of parenting. No one can drive. And I was, heavy into all of that. When I started to have conversation after conversation with women who were very successful in their different career paths, who were all having a similar experience, and they were only talking to me about it. And I kept on thinking, oh, they're overwhelmed, they're isolated, they're exhausted. They don't have people they can talk to because they're either leading something or they're very public facing. And I thought if I could get these women together, something really cool could happen. I could just, And so I happened to be in Salt Lake City. I was speaking at an event there. I met that coach that I had worked with for dinner. He lives out there. Yeah. And I was telling him, I keep talking to all these women and I feel like I need to get them together. And he said, well, on Monday, we're starting a certification group to learn how to use the habit finder in the curriculum. Wow. And when I tell you, I was not thinking I was starting a business. I didn't think I was becoming a coach. I didn't, I just thought, okay, I'll scratch this itch. I'll get a group or two together and work them through this curriculum. And that was 9 years ago. I started with 2 groups and it grew so fast. It grew so fast and it just was like the accidental business. And now is my full-time work. So it's the joy of my life and so sacred to me.
That's so beautiful. I love how your life purpose just kind of fell through for you and you just weren't even seeking it or just really thinking about it. And you just let the universe or God, whatever you believe in, kind of just lead you into your purpose, which is so cool. Yeah, because also me, I didn't know I was going to be a coach. I never knew why. Just like you, everybody would come to me and talk to me about certain things, and I'm like, why? And then coaching came about, and that became a thing. And so this is what I do also as well. So it's fun to see how you could take your skills, knowing that, or not even knowing what it is or how it is, and then it transforms into something, which is so cool. And now you get to inspire and help people all the time. Why is it so powerful to know about your habits and tracking your habits?
Well, I think self-awareness is probably one of our most difficult, but also important investments. We don't tend to see ourselves very clearly in either direction. We often undervalue our areas of natural genius. We don't see them as special because they feel so easy to us. Even thinking back, I think about the gathering of those first groups of women, or I think about why were the women all talking to me? That didn't feel like I was doing anything special, right? But I clearly have some natural genius in that area that I was unaware of. So similarly, we all have two parts of our brain that are happening and existing at the same time. We have a conscious brain that where about 25% of our thoughts every day exist in our conscious awareness, but there's a whole under the surface, 75 to 80% of our thinking that's happening that we are unaware of. That lack of awareness is impacting our ability to connect with other people, our ability to see a task through from start to finish, our ability to dream about the future and what we want to create, our ability to embrace processes and procedures and structure. It impacts everything, but we aren't really aware. And so having awareness is kind of the first step to even knowing what's going on and why certain things are happening in your life.
Yeah, that's so true. And thank you for giving the percentage, because everybody keeps saying the subconscious mind. So you're pretty much talking about the conscious, which is 25%. Wow, that's such a huge difference. I wouldn't think that that percentage would be so vast, Like I would be thinking like at least it's 50-50 or something, but it's not. That's
But
wild.
we're hardwired to survive. And so that includes designating as little energy as possible to things that are repeated. So if we have a pattern of thinking that saves energy and keeps us alive, like it helps us survive, the groove in your brain goes to that subconscious place and it will just repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it without using as much energy because the groove gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And so it makes sense if you think about it from that perspective. Um, yeah.
So I love how you mentioned awareness as well. So how do you get people to become more aware in your work? Because I know I teach people awareness all the time, because that's truly something that helps you notice your blind spots and helps you start noticing and getting out of your patterns or habits or beliefs that are in your subconscious. But how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's two parts to that. The first is obviously the tool that I use, the habit finder, gives language to some of the subconscious habits of thinking. I think you've got to be able to name it and be able to talk about it as a thing. You have to actually understand that there is a thought and that thought exists and this is what it's doing. This is the pattern it's following before you can even recognize where it's showing up in your day-to-day life. I'll give you an example that's kind of like a simple one, but there's a habit of thinking that leans toward obligation thinking. So the brain gets into a pattern that says, I have to, I need to, I should. I have to, I need to, I should. I have to, I need to, I should. And it's pervasive once it takes root. So it can be everything as simple as I need to go to the store to get food. I have to take out the garbage. I should wash the dishes before I go to bed. All things that you might choose to do anyhow, but when they're following that pattern of thinking, it tends to be really exhausting and draining. It feels like, it feels, I always describe it like, you're going to climb a mountain. There's a natural level of resistance. When you strap on that obligation thinking, it's like putting 100-pound backpack on and climbing up the same mountain. So you're adding resistance to a task that you probably would do anyhow. But that also can show up in lots of different workspaces. It can show up in your ability to embrace an exercise routine or any kind of taking care of your body. It shows up everywhere once that habit takes root.
Yeah.
So,
But why do we mostly have that habit of thinking? That's so true. And most of us function that way. I have to do this. It's already so draining. And then I've been telling my clients, like, instead of saying I have to, say I get to, right? You just change the language. It changes the energy or the weight of it. But yeah, why do we tend to go into this negative, very, very heavy weight type of perspective?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and I think that there's part of it again, because at some point that helped you survive.
Mm.
There was probably something in your life that you felt or observed that you had to do in order to get what you needed to survive. If that was attention, if that was affirmation, if that was money, if that was whatever, right? It can be a million different reasons. It's just interesting how once you employ a survival mechanism past the point of needing it, and it becomes detrimental and damaging. And so that's really important to know also, that at some point these habits of thinking helped you survive. It's just that when you keep using them past the point of needing them, then they become really detrimental and damaging. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that just makes sense though. And it's sad that most of us are still functioning in that negative state.
Most. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most. So I love your work. And as a certified habit finder coach, what makes this method different from traditional mindset coaching or habit building frameworks we see?
Yeah, I think the difference, one, I would just say the expectation that I would always set up for work with anyone is that the change is going to be very incremental and slow.
Mm.
In fact, changing too fast in some of these areas can create more damage than good. So if you imagine you have a broken leg and you are healing it, your plan isn't going to be to like train for a marathon.
True.
You're going to first maybe rest and just observe, my leg is broken. Maybe you have a cast on it, and then maybe you're going to get the cast off and you're going to start like slow physical therapy that's really easy at the beginning, and then so this kind of changing of subconscious habits is very incremental and slow. And there are things that I use with people on a daily basis that just offer little tiny tweaks, tiny, tiny, tiny tweaks. The problem is it's pretty boring.
Yeah, people want to see like huge changes all the time, or like drastic changes.
Now, that doesn't mean that over time they don't experience significant change. It's just that it's rarely as fast as your brain tells you it's going to be. And it's rarely as exciting as everyone tells you it's going to be either, right? It tends to happen in the like slow, small, boring choices that you're making every day. So that's very different. I also do think just the distinction is the tool and the language that it gives you is so unique. There's really nothing like it that measures risk of falling into subconscious habits of thinking that I've ever seen. There are a lot of tools that measure personality or strengths, all exceptionally valuable. This is just so different. The habit finder doesn't measure anything about who you are. It measures the risk of your subconscious mind falling down certain patterns of thinking. So, like the children's game, Chutes and Ladders, you land on this square, you're going to slide down that slide. It's very similar. And so we've got to really be able to name it and say, oh, there it is again. and catch it and make a different choice.
That's so
Mhm.
true. And that's where the awareness piece comes in. And that's where you help
Yeah.
your clients shift that and help them be aware. And so when it does happen, you can shift that habit. Ooh, that's
Yeah.
good. I love
Mhm.
that. It's just
Yeah.
so inspiring in your work. What was one of your favorite or maybe most inspirational story or something that your client had like a big aha or a big revelation that, changed their life? If you
Yeah.
have a story.
I mean, I can tell you some from just this week. I
Wow.
had a client tell me that their spouse said, in decades of marriage, I've never felt seen or understood like I do now
Wow.
since you started this work. And I
Oh,
feel like that's a significant one.
yeah,
Um,
that's huge.
I also often, it's so fascinating. So a lot of my work and even the core message of my book is that you can't outwork your thought habits. So a lot of my clients are people who have worked really, really hard to get to a certain level of success. They are out of energy and time. They cannot work anymore,
Mhm.
but they still have a desire for more impact or more income or more influence. And so, what do you do then? When it's not the answer that has always served you is just to work harder, to work more. And so, a lot of the success stories, like the one from last week, I would say, where like she had her best month in revenue sales
Mhm.
ever, and she worked less than she'd ever worked.
Wow, that's
Like a
incredible.
few hours, but not even like you're measuring it, more just like what she was focusing on and what created the growth was not her slaving over the business, nose to the grindstone, hours after hours. Again, I always want to leave the caveat that my clients typically they have built something. They're not like at the beginning,
Yeah.
they're further along and they've gotten somewhere and now they're like not able to keep doing that to get to the next thing.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
so it's like helping them figure out how to utilize their time instead of hustling and bustling, what our culture is so used to.
yeah, and not even time. It's like, who do you believe yourself to be?
Mm,
And how would that person show up? And who would they attract? What would they stop doing that isn't paying them what they're worth? What would they focus in on that is? Um, you know, Another client who she just closed like this huge deal. It's one of the biggest deals she's ever closed in her whole career. And it didn't come from her hustle. It came because she started to believe she was worth the level of income that level of client would bring her.
wow,
And
that's
so it's really hard to explain and it feels a little annoying even sometimes for people because they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, how does that work? But it's more about the energy with which you're showing up in your life and how you're able to attract at the risk of sounding super, super woo woo, but like, what are you attracting and what are you repelling with your energy and who you believe yourself to be and what you're worthy of? So
That's not woo woo at all. I totally believe in this, and this is
real.
what I teach too.
Yeah.
I totally believe that. So you're having these women understand their self worth, really, truly, their self worth and what they deserve.
You
And so,
cannot out earn your self worth.
yeah, it's true.
You earn what you believe you're worth, even if you work and you have a salary. Like, even if you don't determine how much someone pays you, they can determine how much they pay you. They can't determine how much you're going to make, right?
That's true. I love that perspective. That is
Yeah.
so true. Yeah. So allowing these women to really believe in their worth, and then they attract all of that goodness. Wow, that's so powerful. I love that. I love the energy work and how you correlated with that because it is true. It's all about energy and perspective perspective and your perception. Wow. I love that. So, what patterns do you see most often in the thought habits of female leaders since you've worked with over 300 female business leaders?
There are a few areas of high risk. A lot of leaders have a habit of thinking that leans toward being obsessive. So they are thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking all the time, thinking, 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 thinking. The risk of that one is that you can become kind of like a workhorse instead of a leader, where people can't keep up with you. You aren't bringing people in because you're going so fast. They aren't even bringing their ideas because you're so far ahead of them. And it's exhausting. You can get into like really bad patterns of overworking. So in that case, like with an obsessive thinker, there are a few things that we work on a lot. One of them being guilt-free play, which is scheduled. So like having things in your calendar, and this is so crazy how many women we've done this, and like they are working less than ever before, and then they start making more, and they're like, they don't understand how that's possible, but they're like hyper functioning, never taking a break. And so then they're exhausted instead of having things scheduled on a regular basis that force them to give their brain a break. Like it's not negotiable for this person with this habit of thinking to have hobbies, to have constant and frequent interaction with friends, things they're looking forward to that are playful and fun and life-giving and light and, creative, or things where you can't think about work because you're so engrossed in it, right? So it's just a really fascinating thing how when you start to give your brain a break, it actually can come up with more creative solutions, or you become more attractive to people because you have better energy. But like you just start to live and lead with more joy, and it tends to create better outcomes.
I love that so much. And I'm smiling because who you're talking about is pretty much me. I am that type of person who does overthink, and then I have to do. I'm just like a doer. And so scheduling in fun or playtime is crucial. If I don't schedule in a workout or going for a walk or like lunch with a friend or something, I could be working all day and not even eat lunch or care about myself. Yeah, I see that when I do work all day, I'm not as functional, or I don't bring in as much, as I should be or doing, because you're not as efficient as you really think. Yeah, because you're not letting the energy come, like you're not in the receiving.
Yeah. And your brain, like when you play, it creates new pathways, and it can provide inspired ideas. But the other thing is like the days when you have something to look forward to at the end of the day, we tend to do a better quality of work because there's a deadline and we have something fun to look forward to. And so we're sort of like, ooh, I'm going to, get this done. And then you feel like, oh, I did really great work today. And now I can check out and I can go play. And then that provides creative ideas or new connections that you didn't see before. And so you come back to work refreshed, but you also come back with a higher quality of work. So you start to create things that bring in more revenue, or you start to like, there's this really cool pattern, but what it starts with is the scheduled guilt-free play.
I love that. Thank you for mentioning that. That is really, really important and such a good tip, because usually women who are high functioning or are always doing something, yeah, that's great to schedule that
Hard time. It's hard for them.
in.
It's
Yes.
hard. Like it's not, and a lot of them don't even know what they like to do.
It's
They,
true.
they don't, they don't even know. It's like one of my clients last week, she was naming, I said, all right, well, how did your audit go of the guilt-free play on your calendar for the next 90 days? And she started naming things. Well, all of them were work related.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, well, that's not like, you're on when you're there. That's not guilt-free play. You're not, and she was like, it's not. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, she couldn't even think about, it had been so long since she'd given herself permission to even think about or imagine what that might be that she would enjoy doing that had no purpose, no benefit to anyone except for you.
Yeah.
So, like I just started playing mahjong.
Oh,
I played pickleball. I love to do puzzles. I love to read. I do a lot of playful, fun things that have no purpose and no benefit to my business. And they are the most important investment in my business.
wow. That's
Mm,
And to hear from you and that perspective is just so helpful because everybody thinks that in order to be successful, you have to do work that is specifically for your business or for your work, for your job. Yeah, you
yeah.
love it for
Yeah.
your business. It is true. What brings you joy and happiness at the end of the day? And then knowing that. And it's funny because I've talked about this story many times, but like before, I didn't even know who I was. But then one day I never realized that I love flowers so much. I was just so out of tune with myself and with life. And I've been doing the same walk for like months. And I always had my phone with me. So that's how disconnected I was. And then one day I was like, let's just leave my phone. I think I was listening to a podcast. So just leave your phone at home and just go for a walk. And then I was like, this is kind of weird, right? And then I went for a walk and I just saw lots of flowers. And I just never realized how beautiful flowers were and how happy they actually made me feel. And I was like, this is wild. Like, how did I not, this simple thing, have not even or was even aware of? But it's so funny how you say that because it is true. When you work so much and you're so focused on that one thing, that's what you are only used to. So that's what I wanted to point out is, yeah, take yourself out and do different things. Like even small little shifts can make you realize and help you get there, which is so cool. So can you walk us through one common unhealthy thought habit and how someone can begin to shift it into something more empowering?
Yeah. One that I see a lot right now, is a measurement that moves toward fantastical. It means that your brain is constantly, your brain can create a vision for what you want in the future that's very vivid and clear. And it's very much a physical experience for you when you have this habit of thinking. Like if we hooked you up to monitors, your body would respond as if the thing you're dreaming about was actually happening. It's a gift. About 98% of entrepreneurs have this habit of thinking. And it means you can see what isn't there yet. And then you can come back to reality and take the steps to create it. That's the healthy version of it, but not unlike a fire hose with a heavy brass nozzle on the end. When you're pointing it at a fire, it does a lot of good. When you lose control of it and it's flapping around, it's very dangerous. And so it can easily swing to a fantasy, like a fantasy about what's, maybe let's say, the timeline for you to achieve a certain goal in your business, where your brain will create this someday when I'm there, and it will attach conditions for its happiness or its joy or its feeling of success or value to that vision. And so then when you don't achieve it, it's like a constant disappointment, right?
Yeah.
It also can swing to catastrophe where you get a piece of information. And this is really common in owning or running a business where, like, I'm looking at data all the time around my business, and certain numbers are up and certain numbers are down all the time with every business I've ever been a part of, right? There's always things that are growing, and then there are things that are like, ooh, that doesn't look very good. And so that's a constant where I can look at a piece of data, for example, about my business, and I can go to legitimately, we've lost our house. I'm a complete failure in 2 seconds. based on one piece of information if I'm not careful and I have this habit of thinking. Or you get an email from your boss that says, like, I'd like to meet with you on Monday, and all weekend, you're playing through scenarios that are worst case scenarios about the meeting. And then you get there Monday and she says, you did a great job on your presentation or something, and you've just wasted all of this energy and time in catastrophe. So your brain can swing from fantasy, unrealistic expectations, perfection, what you think should happen, all the way to catastrophe really quickly. That's a very common habit of thinking I see a lot.
Yeah. And that's how I function too sometimes. So when you say it, I was like, oh, yeah, I can see that. And that's why it's getting out of your head and just being in the present helps me get out of making all these crazy scenarios happen. And you
Yeah. And
suggest,
if I know that, I can, when I look at that piece of information that doesn't look good, for example, around my business, let's just say, I can then say, oh, I see what's happening. My brain is going to catastrophe. That's okay to know, like that could happen, right? Worst case scenario. But also, let's just come back to the present and take the millimeter steps that will prevent that outcome from happening. uh, that worst case scenario. Or if I go to fantasy, if I recognize it, I can be like, oh, there it is, and then I can say, you know what? Come back from the vision. It's not bad to have a vision, but come back and what's the thing I can work on right now that's on my list that might actually create that thing in the future?
that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. It is true. We are so prone to go to the catastrophe, like what you say, because maybe it's our safety net or something, or trauma or belief that let's think of the worst case scenario. But it
Sure.
doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you. It just puts you in a very spiral way of living until that event happens. And then you find out you're like, oh, okay, it's not as bad. It's always
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
That's so funny. So let's talk about your book. It's behind you too. I love it. It's called I See You. So what inspired you to write a book or to write this book?
Yeah. I definitely wrote this book not about something, but for someone.
Hmm.
I definitely wrote it for the women that I work with. And the core message of the book is that you can't outwork your thought habits. And when you get to the place where you have that ambition inside of you, and for whatever reason, it's not coming to fruition, and you've put in the time and you've put in the work, um, it's time to just do some digging inside of you and to uncover what's going on there and to really understand at a deeper level what the cause of the resistance is.
Hmm.
And so it's designed to be, and in fact, the reason that I chose the publisher that I did is because the person that I was talking to, she owns the publishing company, said, oh, this feels like a coaching session with you in a book
Wow.
form. And so I was like, yes, that's what I want it to feel like, is that I want it to feel like the foyer of my business where you can come in and you can start to get a taste at a pretty low risk of the work I do. So
That's incredible. How long did it take you to write this book, or when did you even have the thought or idea to
yeah.
start writing this?
Well, I always joke 25 years. I mean, I've been working with women on these principles for decades. I've been teaching a lot of these principles for decades in different settings. But I do think there is a reality to my life where I had 3 children, and it takes a lot of energy to get tiny humans to be large humans, it turns out. Especially, like, kind ones who are, functioning in the world. And so I just didn't have the energy with running my business to pursue something creative like this. But now my kids are older and I have a lot more freedom and time, which, by the way, if you do have small children and you're listening, I always say to people, like, I wish someone would have told me. I think I knew it, but like, there will be a different season. You will have more time and bandwidth. You might not right now, but like there will come a season where you do. Um, and I'm not like the mom that wishes her kids were small again.
Yeah.
You know, I'm also not the mom who doesn't want them to grow up. I really love seeing who they're becoming, but there wasn't space for me. I needed to be the parent I wanted to be. I needed to have some of that energy for them. So this was a pursuit I've dreamed of probably for 25 years, but just now had like the bandwidth to bring into reality.
That's amazing. Yeah, you're giving me a great perspective because right now I have a 3-year-old and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time for certain projects or things that I would like to do. But like you said, there will be a time in the future where my schedule will change.
Truly, yeah. And it's not even always a time, it's sometimes more of an energy.
Yes, yes.
Emotional energy it takes to take care of a 3-year-old is high, and the emotional energy it takes to write a book is high. And so, like, you only have so much of that. And
Yeah,
yeah.
that is true. I love
Mhm.
how you keep saying energy with everything. It is true. It's not really about time, it's about the energy. How much energy do you have to put in the work for it? Yeah, that is true. So, what got you into energy work too? Talking about energy, that's so cool. Certain people don't really say energy as much as other people, but you understand how energy really does play effect in our world and in how we show up or what we do and what you attract and what you don't attract. You were talking about that, which is so amazing.
I think trial and error, I think just um I, I've read a fair amount, but also some of it is just, for example, when I get depleted, I'm at high risk of taking on the emotions and the experiences of people around me. I'm an empath, and I start to hold space for them in a way that's unhealthy, where I'm like taking on their stuff. Which is why I told you I didn't think I would want to be a coach,
Yeah.
because I didn't have the skill of protecting myself. I was just available to absorb everyone's energy. And I started to learn that I could be fully present with someone and empathize without absorbing their story and their experience. And that separation gave me the freedom to be able to coach people at a really high level and in really sacred, vulnerable spaces, right? So I had to learn how to protect my own energy. And I'll often say to people, I have the time to do probably 4 times as many calls as I do in a day. I don't have
Mhm.
the energy,
Yeah.
because when it gets down, then I'm at high risk of that unhealthy absorbing, and then I'm no good for anyone.
Yeah.
It's too much, it's too heavy, I can't do it. But if it's at a pace where I'm not depleted, I'm awesome. Like, I've learned practices that allow me to not absorb the energy or to leave the energy behind when I'm done. I
That's
write about this in my book, but I learned this from a friend who's a massage therapist.
cool.
She described it as like a ribbon where you're weaving in a conversation for me with a client. I'm weaving a ribbon of colorful ribbons together like a beautiful pattern of connection. And then at the end, I will hold up my fingers like scissors and kind of cut the invisible ribbon and say out loud after I get off the call, what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. Like, I don't have to take yours with me, but we did a beautiful thing there regardless.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
yeah.
Thank
Mhm.
you for sharing that. And I love how you said you're an empath because most listeners are empaths here because I'm an empath too, which is beautiful. And so we do really get affected by other people, honestly.
A lot.
And a lot of empaths don't know how to distinguish what truly is their energy or other people's
Yes.
energy versus their own.
Yes.
So that's a
Yeah. Or
powerful.
you're just, it feels too feely to expose yourself to too many people. I always thought I was an introvert, but I'm really not. I really am an empath. I just
Mm,
was limiting my exposure because I couldn't protect my energy from theirs.
yeah. But how'd you start realizing, oh, I'm an empath, and you started observing other people's energies and then realizing, oh, I am an empath and I can shield my energy? Because I guess a lot of empaths maybe are unaware of this. And so, like what you said, you thought you were an introvert, but you're really not. And I feel like I'm like that too sometimes because I want to be by myself, and being in a big crowd just is so draining. I'm like, I cannot absorb all of this energy right now. It's
Yeah.
just too much.
Yeah. I think I got myself burned out
Mm,
so many times over and over early in my career that I did have to start to learn some strategies to avoid that. So I started to be able to name it, and I started reading things. I worked with, I don't really know. I think I know one person in my whole life who's invested more in personal development and coaching than me. I really learned about myself. I really put myself in the space to learn about me because I needed it. I was burning out. I knew I could contribute. I knew I could lead. I knew I could grow things, but then I would crash and burn. And I just got tired of doing that over and over. So I had to really rethink and learn some different ways to be. I also recognized that I was different from other people and that I could see things that they couldn't see
wow.
um, in people. I could understand things at a deeper level. I really could. That's why the book is titled I See You, because I really do see people at a really deep level.
That's incredible. And that's what makes you
Mhm.
so, like, such a great coach. And this is why you coach people too, because
Yeah.
then you can see it and then help bring that out for them.
And like we said earlier, with self awareness, yes, the tool I use helps with people, but you, we don't see ourselves clearly. But when someone sees you, it is one of the most profound experiences of your life when they really see you. And so that outside support of having some kind of coach person in your life who sees you, and that person typically can't be in charge of your paycheck, by the way.
Yes.
Like they can't, it's not, there's too many conflicting agendas. It needs to be like a neutral party. When they see you, there's something about that experience that's profoundly changing.
True.
And they
I love how
tell
you
you
mentioned
things
that.
about yourself that you knew were true. You know to be true, but no one's ever said it out loud. And then you hear it and you're like, oh. So,
Yeah, and it affirms and confirms certain thoughts that you have, but then of course you usually have self-doubt, or you're not as confident, you're just like, "No, I don't believe that," or no one's ever said it or confirmed it. So then, like, you coming in, being a coach, or being able to see that and confirming that is just so helpful. Yeah, I love that. So, for listeners who want to start today, what is one practical, simple habit or exercise they can begin implementing to become more aware of their internal thinking patterns?
yeah. I mean, the one that comes to mind is that you can just take the habit finder for free and read through your results. Can't hurt. Like, just you get the results right away. You can take it at my website, which is my name, amykemp.com. And it just says take free habit finder assessment, because I really need you to start to create a mirror for yourself of some sort. And that's probably the easiest, tiniest, most low risk step for you to take to do that.
Yeah, and I did take the test. You had me take it. It was awesome. And then I saw a lot of, like, high risk. So you, like, have different parts to it, and then it breaks it down. It's really, really cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's a
It's
really
a
cool
really
thing.
great tool.
Yeah, it's so helpful. So thank you for sharing that. And then I'll put it in the link below too for people or for the listeners. So for women listening, or people who are listening right now who feel called to reshape their thoughts and step into healthier leadership habits, how can they join, encounter, or connect with you and your work?
Yeah. My website is the easiest way, and it has lots of cool things on it, but it's my name, Amy Kemp, so AMYKEMP.com. Um, there are obviously different links. There's a really cool link connected to the book. So lots of extra, like kind of cool video resources and things that we created around the book. Obviously, you can start at the book as well because it's a fun way for you to experience my work and my voice. It is available anywhere you buy books, but also on Audible. So a lot of my clients are listeners of books, and so you can listen if that's your favorite. And it is my voice. That's what people always
That's
want to
awesome.
know if it's me. So yes, I did read the book. But then last, you could follow me on Instagram. I am active there and on LinkedIn, but Instagram at Amy Kemp Inc. So
But thank you so much for being here, sharing all your knowledge. And again, like I said, I'll put all of your links in the show notes below. Do you have any last things you want the listeners to know or to take away from our conversation today?
I think my only final encouragement would just be to never apologize or hesitate to invest in growing you. It's really easy to invest in things that are external to us, but the investment in yourself is one that you'll not regret and that will probably have a greater impact than any other thing you do. So if it's a course, if it's a book, if it's a podcast, if it's a coaching engagement, if it's a class, um, take the step of faith that it requires, the courage, and invest in you.
I love that. I truly believe that. That's the best investment you will ever make in your life. It's better than buying some materialistic thing. Investing in yourself, whatever it may be, is going to make you so much happier and gets you closer to your dreams, your goals, your desires, whatever it is. So I truly believe that. So thank you so much for being here.
You.
Bye. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on Ignite Your Power, the Kathy Mou Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, take a deep breath and know this: you're exactly where you're meant to be. If you're feeling called to go deeper, I'd love to support you. You can work with me one-on-one or book a numerology guidance card reading with me. All are in the show links below. And if this episode supported you in any way, please share with someone who needs it, leave a review, or take a screenshot and tag me on social media. Your support helps this message reach more souls who are ready to step into their power. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep trusting your journey, and keep living your bliss soft life. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!